Okay, so we have undertaken a really big task, and that task is to take a deep dive into Toronto and to figure out where the best up and coming areas for 2025 are going to be. So if you're interested in Toronto real estate, if you're interested in investment, if you're interested in areas that we feel have tremendous amounts of value and upside with a lot of densification that are still relatively close to traveling to the city center, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Toronto Real Estate Podcast. My name is Ralph Fox. I am the broker of record and co-founder of Fox Marin. And today we have my lovely associate and partner in crime, Kori Marin, broker and co-founder at Fox Marin as well. And we are here to share with you the top 3 up and coming, best value neighborhoods. If you're looking to make a shrewd investment, or if you're looking to move into that freehold market, we've got some great opportunities for you.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited that we're going to talk about this. And I would like to say this took us a while to figure out. So we started very big macro, looking at basically all of the 416/647. And then whittled it down. We really looked at price point, something that's a little bit more palatable. And we'll talk about that a bit more shortly. We looked at transit, infrastructure, densification, and does this neighborhood have any culture or future culture? So we broke that down as well. And I'm really excited to share these 3. These have been shortlisted from 5. We're down to 3 just to keep everything tight and to the point. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. We do have some slides just to help you understand where the heck we're talking about, because when I say these neighborhoods, you're going to be like, I never even heard of what she's saying. And then we're going to, so you're welcome to follow along that way. And I can also put a link to the slides if that's helpful for you in the comments section below. I would also like to add a massive footnote that this is not that we're telling you that you have to buy. And if you don't want to buy real estate, you don't have to buy real estate. This is for those who are like, I'd like to make a move up the property ladder, and they're selling their first condo and moving into their first freehold, or they're taking that jump right into their freehold market, and they've got the bank of mom and dad to help them out. And I'd also like to say that these price points are probably not affordable for everybody. And I want to acknowledge that off the top, understanding that not everybody can buy a freehold house in Toronto. And I totally respect that too. So I just want to say that off the top, we're not trying to push real estate on anyone with this podcast today. We just want to give our inside edition as to where you might want to look if you're looking for a great value opportunity. So here we go. Drum roll. First neighborhood. We're going to W03. And we're combining 2 communities. We're going to look at Keelsdale to Caledonia. And the reason that we've combined these is we wanted to have a little bit of a bigger data set for you, just to give you a bit more accurate information, because these are small little pockets. But basically where we're looking, just so you can get an idea of where we're talking about, is north of Rogers Road, south of Eglinton Avenue West. And we're going from Keele Street over to Dufferin. And you've got that big strip of green where the cemetery is, the Caledonia Fairbank section in the center. Okay. I want you to think construction. This is how you're going to visualize where we're talking about. We're talking about just south of the LRT construction on Eglinton Avenue West. And one day it will be done. They say 2025. Who here agrees that that will happen? None of us really know. But this is the pocket. We've talked about this pocket before. We're back here again. This is an area of the city that I actually feel like is completely undervalued. It is so close to so many things, including that future LRT. And it's so close to the stockyards, which is great for accessibility if you need groceries or you need a Home Depot or you need a quick burger. You got everything over there at the stockyards, and you're so close to Corso Italia, which is a great little pocket off of St. Clair West, where you've got some awesome restaurants and coffee shops too. So you've got a lot of culture mixed in there, blended in with this transit infrastructure that will be finished one day. Okay. So that gives you a sense of where we are. This neighborhood, as it exists today, was planned actually in the interwar years, so between the 1920s and 30s. And most of this neighborhood really is made up of 2 and 1.5 story detached houses, and most of them run on the north-south residential streets. So all the streets run up and down parallel to one another. This is very much a family neighborhood. In fact, 49% of the households are made up of families with children. And then couples without kids, or maybe they're planning on having kids, makes up 19%. And only 22% are singles that live in this neighborhood. So this is a very much a family community. And then it's an up and coming family neighborhood as well. And it's mixed with a ton of different ethnic origins, which I also love about this neighborhood. So 100 different ethnic origins live in this community. 57% are first generation immigrants, and 30% are second generation immigrants with a blend of Portuguese, Italian, Canadian, Filipino, and Spanish. Okay, so lots of great influences in this neighborhood. And when we've worked in this neighborhood and sold in this neighborhood, one thing I always really notice is that it feels like old Toronto still. People say hi to you on the sidewalk. Somebody offers to shovel your driveway. If your pipe bursts, for example, in the middle of the night and you don't know what to do, your neighbor would be happy to help you out. So it's a community that has a little bit of that old school vibe still, which I really, really miss about Toronto. And it still has a little bit of that flavor, which is something I really appreciate about this neighborhood that has yet to be discovered. Ralph, is there anything you want to add before we jump into transit?
Yeah, I think going back to your point, there's a lot of pride of ownership. And, these aren't big mansions that you're seeing on these, tree-lined streets, but you can see that people really care about their properties and take really great care of them and are very concerned about their neighbors as well. Kind of like the neighborhood that we all grew up in Toronto, which just doesn't really seem to exist. And I think one of the opportunities with this neighborhood, not just from a value and price perspective, but if you have a starting family and you're looking for that starter home for your new family, this area neighborhood presents so much because you're not having to sell your soul necessarily to move to a kind of cookie cutter home in the middle of nowhere. This is a really great find, Kori. And I think once we get into it a little bit further, our viewers will agree as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about transit because we all know that Toronto is basically impossible to get around in these days. So I really want you to consider whether you're looking for a property in this neighborhood or any neighborhood in the city is like, what is my commute time going to look like? How am I going to get there? What's my walkability to things? Because I think more and more we're going to become, and we've talked about this before, like New York, where everyone lives and breathes in their own neighborhood, in their own community, because it just takes so freaking long to get from one side of the city to another. So for example, like we live in the West End and like Ralph and I would never make reservations for dinner, let's say, for example, in the beaches, because we'd be like, it will take us an hour plus possibly to get there for dinner on a Friday night. We will stay somewhere closer to our neck of the woods where we can walk there or take a quick Uber ride. You and I aren't the best.
I prefer to walk.
I know. And you and I are the worst at public transit, but I think you're going to see this more and more. So as you're considering your real estate investment or your next move, I really want you to think about transit and how you're going to get around. Nobody wants to spend hours inching around in their car or taking multiple bus trips, just to get to work every day. So this area is great because of the Eglinton Crosstown, which will be done one day, I swear. So there are 44 different transit stops in the area, and this area is going to include all these awesome stations, and they actually look amazing on Eglinton because you can see a lot of them done. But there's going to be, obviously there's already Eglinton West Station, but then you've got the crosstown stops at Keelsdale, at Caledonia, and at Fairbanks. Amazing. And then this area is really much a mix of vehicle commuters and transit commuters. So this is really the hotbed of like why this area is going to be, I still can't believe it hasn't popped because of this. And maybe people are just like over it at this point and they're like forgetting that this is even going to happen, but it's coming, my friends. It's coming.
It will happen.
So the other thing I really want to just touch base on is quickly the demographics for people's educations and occupations in this neighborhood too. So we've listed the average household income for this area, and the largest percentage for income as a household combined is about $100,000 to $125,000. So That's just good to know in case you're like sitting there thinking, I will never be able to afford a house. I'm a teacher and my husband is in tech, and, combined we make X amount. And it just feels like Toronto feels so out of reach. I get it. You need the down payment for this, totally acknowledging it. It's just there's a lot of people in this income bracket living in this neighborhood. And yes, they might have bought 5 years ago. And yes, they might have bought 20 years ago. But you're just seeing like a realistic sense of what the household income on average is. The highest averages is in this neighborhood. The most common occupations are sales and services, trades, like I mentioned, transport, equipment operators. Remember, I told you in the middle of the night, if your pipes burst, there's somebody to ask. That's because that neighborhood still has that working blue collar feel there. Business people, finance people, administrative occupations.
See a lot of pickup trucks.
Totally.
But I love it. Yeah.
I love it too. And I just like the fact you see the guys like sitting outside the coffee shop having their morning espresso, and they're like heading off to their site that they're working on, or girls. I'm not saying it has to be guys, but I just saying I love that part about this neighborhood. 17% of adult residents have a bachelor's degree or higher, and 47% have a post-secondary education. So again, you're seeing a lot of construction, retail trades, healthcare, social assistance. That's the community that is attracted to this area. So what we pulled here was just to give you a sense of pricing. So what I wanted to do is be like, can you get a detached house in Toronto anywhere? It's kind of how we filtered the neighborhoods here. So I wanted to look at detached houses because that's the dream, right? People want to get out of their shoebox condos and move into something of their own, have a little bit of a backyard and have a front porch that they can have their morning coffees on. And I wanted to look for something that is like, yeah, you could raise a family here, or at least start your family. So 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and we only pulled detached houses and all stories. So a lot of these will be little bungalows, which are adorable and an amazing place to start, okay? So when you look at this is just the average of the last 3 months. I didn't go back too far because I wanted to give you as realistic numbers as possible and stay as present as possible. So the average sold price for a little detached house in this neighborhood over the last 3 months has been $953,000. The median sold price is $865,000. So what the median sold price means is that we've taken the highest price and the lowest price, and we found the middle price. So $865,000. They're selling on average in 22 days, which is like not crazy fast. It's just like kind of a good, healthy pace. As I mentioned, average 3 bedroom, average 2 washer. Now, some of these will be 2 beds, some of these will be 4 beds, but on average, that's what we're looking at. And I think that's a pretty healthy price to find a starter house in Toronto, acknowledging again that I'm not shoving this down your throat. This is for people who are interested in looking for their first little guy. Okay.
Kori, you need to stop reading the comment section of YouTube and not take it personally.
I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I know. People just need to get out of their basements.
I know.
It's fine.
I also pulled a couple of examples. I thought this would be really helpful. So you're like, yeah, she's talking about this and that all sounds great. But like, I don't want to have a little shack, and I don't want to have to renovate, and I don't want to have to live in, a gross property. And I don't have any vision or interest in doing that type of upgrade work. So these are some opportunities that have popped up over the last 3 months. I thought I'd share. This one's on McRoberts, which is at Caledonia in Eglinton. How cute is this little house? And I have some pictures of the interior. This was listed not by us, but by a RE/MAX agent. So completely acknowledging that too. This was listed for $875 and it sold for $869. It's a 31 by 142 lot. You've got your 2 bedrooms plus another bedroom in the basement. This one happens to have a little basement apartment with a kitchenette down below. So possibly good for an in-law or maybe extra income for you as well. It does have 3 parking spots. And I feel like this is super adorable. It's move-in ready, great little backyard, excellent location, and completely reasonable price point.
And looks solid. Doesn't look like there's any leaky basement action going on there.
I don't smell mold from here anyways.
No. And you have a strong nose.
I do. And the second one here is on Yarrow, which is closer to Keele off of Eglinton. Also really cute, a little 2-story detached property.
Hmm.
This one was listed for 988, sold for less than listing. So it sold for 950. This is a 25 by 110 lot. This is 3+1 bedrooms, 3 washrooms. This also has a little basement apartment in it. You do have a little backyard, and then you've got your all this parking for you as well. I just think what a great property if you're just
Yes.
graduating into the freehold market.
With a basement apartment. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think this is so cute. So keeping an eye out for properties like this, smart idea. Then what we did here, because I know you're like, okay, that's great. She's talking about detached, and I'm only giving you a sense of the last 3 months. Let's look at what the MLS home price index is saying. So let me give you some clarity about what that means as well. So when Treb publishes their market stats, they do a composite average on their market statistics. And what this does is it helps kind of smooth everything out so that we don't have any rogue properties pulling up the averages or dragging them down. This helps our averages stay more apples to apples, if that makes sense. This is like smooths out all the numbers so any anomalies don't screw up the averages. So this is just a healthy way of looking at what the numbers are saying. It's a little bit more fair, for example, versus just pulling out 1 month or 2 months worth of data. So the average detached house in this neighborhood is at just over $1 million on the composite average, down 0.55% versus last year. So it's had a little depreciation. Semis just hovering over $1 million, up about 1.5% versus last year. A townhouse or a row house, which will be harder to find in this neighborhood because there's more detached than any other type of property in this neighborhood. It's about $800,000 if you can find one. And condos, which will be limited as well, but they will be coming up and peppering that area as the LRT gets completed. Keep your eye out for condos. You're just hovering under $600,000 for a condo in that area. And of course, there's been a price adjustment on condos year over year because we've seen a little bit of a negative drag on prices. So that gives you just a little sense on what the entire neighborhood looks like when you break it down by asset class. And then just a few more things just to pop on about this little community is you want to think about the location. And Ralph and I tell everybody who's buying, you need to walk the neighborhood. You need to get on your feet and you need to walk around. You need to go into the coffee shops. You need to go into the local restaurants, check out the grocery stores. This is how you're going to get a feel for what the neighborhood is like. So again, this neighborhood is still up and coming. You're not going to see thousands of coffee shops like you do in Trinity Bellwoods. You're not going to see 1,000 restaurants like you do on King West. It's going to be very different. You're going to want to find these little pockets. So I just pulled a couple of them there. So you're like, oh, they do exist in this neighborhood because it kind of feels like they don't. So like a cute bakery at Angels or Mercado restaurant in Caledonia, which gets amazing reviews, or this cute little Oakwood Espresso, which is on Oakwood Avenue, which is adorable and gets lots of love on Instagram. And then, of course, you've got great parks in this neighborhood with tons of playgrounds at Burt Robinson Park and Fairbank Memorial Park as well. And then, as I mentioned off the top, you've got access to the stockyards and you've got access to Corso Italia. So to me, this neighborhood is prime for more and more gentrification and more great coffee shops coming, more restaurants and bars, so that the community becomes more accessible on foot or by Uber, for example.
Kori, you know how I like my baked goods. Angel's Bakery is kind of catching my eye there. Looks like they
No,
would have a mean chocolate chip
I
cookie,
feel like
which
I
you
was
know
chocolate.
I'm a
Good.
connoisseur of.
Yes, you are.
Noted.
Yes. And then the last thing I just want to mention about this area, I want you to consider outside of like walking the neighborhood, and you really need to be looking at the schools. So when neighborhoods are in the middle of transition, they might not have the best of the best school rankings. And so oftentimes people look at the Fraser Institute as being like the litmus test for school ratings. I want you to get outside of that. And I want you to know that the schools will gentrify with the neighborhood. So if you don't have kids yet and you're expecting to have kids within the next 5-7 years, the schools are going to start catching up. That's just like one thing to look at. The other thing is like, it's not a bad idea to talk to the potential neighbor that you might have or a friend that lives in the area or the school principal about the public schools in the neighborhood. But this area does have 10 public schools, 5 Catholic schools, 1 private school, and there are French immersion programs and international baccalaureate programs accessible in this neighborhood should you be interested in. But you need to do your school research, and your school research is done by using your address and your street name. Okay. So you can use that looking at the Toronto District School Board and work backwards from there. This is a pretty large community. So depending on where you are, it's going to put you in the catchment area for your school. As I mentioned, I want you to look at your commute times. How long is it going to actually take you to get to work? You want to figure this out before you buy your next home. And I really want you to be aware, of course, there are going to be construction delays in this neighborhood. As we mentioned, the LRT will eventually be done. But as we're all experiencing across the city of Toronto, there seems to be construction everywhere. So I'm just highlighting that as one final point on this community. Anything else you want to add, Ralph, before we move on to community number 2?
No, I really like this one. I think this one's a keeper.
Okay, well, we're going to figure out which one of the 3 is our favorite by the end.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, we're going east. We're going a little further east than we're acclimatized to be honest. Like once I get past Main Street, I'm really like, okay, the GPS has to go on. Okay. So a little out of my comfort zone. Ralph, probably a bit out of your comfort zone too.
Oh yeah, Victoria Park. That's way out of my comfort zone as well. But I think that it is worth talking about because there are these little gems that seem so far out that all of a sudden aren't so far out and then become a destination. So let's dig into a little bit more, Cora. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Amazing. All right, let's get a sense of where we are first, since we're like a little bit out of the Toronto comfort zone that we are used to. So we're moving beyond Main. Okay, and I want you to think Victoria Park up to Eglinton, sort of across to Midland, and then down to the Danforth/Kingston Road. Okay, so you're like north of the Scarborough Bluffs. See, I'm already like, what's that thing called where people go to on the East End and there's cliffs there? That's how I'm like, okay, there. Okay. I also want you to wrap your head around this map because there's 3 things I want you to look at, which are really like shiny jewels. And it's the GO station symbols. We've got 3 of them, one on Eglinton, one just near St. Clair. And then you've got the one at Main and Danforth. Okay. This is really, really helpful for you if you're considering this neighborhood because you've got accessibility to transit, which is going to be the major theme of today's podcast. Okay. The other thing too is when we have worked out in this area and we've had several clients reach out to us to go see their properties out here for various reasons. Every time we go there, we're like, oh my God, it's so nice out here. Like, I feel like this area has a really bad rap because none of us understand it. But when you go out there and see some of the homes, you're like, look at this lot. Look at all these trees. Look at all these nice people. Like, you're just like, this isn't the Scarborough I imagined it to be. And I think we all think like, I don't know, like Scarborough Town Center. And that's like our idea of Scarborough. But Scarborough has a lot of amazing pockets. And this little community is one of my favorite up-and-comers. And that's why it made the list today. So again, Scarborough was developed as a suburb of Toronto and it actually became amalgamated in the early 1950s. Families with kids make up 52% of the household, while couples without children make up 18%, and then 20% of the households are singles. People in this area come from 154 different ethnic origins. 52% are first generation, while 26% are second generation. And we've got Canadian, Filipino, English, Chinese, Irish, everybody. Everybody's in Scarborough. Everybody who's everybody is out in Scarborough. So it's a nice mix again. And we love that about Toronto, that we are culturally diverse. Transit, as I mentioned, huge. Okay. There's 243 transit stops in this neighborhood. 51% of people use their car to commute and 44% use transit. Okay. If you want to go from the Scarborough GO station to Union, it's only 19 minutes. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. If you want to take the Scarborough GO direct to the Danforth GO and then take Danforth across to, let's say, Yonge and Bloor, It's only 5 minutes. So Danforth Go, this is a big, big, big piece of
It's huge.
pie here. Education and occupations, again, the average household income in this neighborhood mirrors the same one as our former community, between 100 and 125,000 being the biggest percentage. Lots of sales and services in this area, business, finance, administration, trades, transport, equipment operators, healthcare, social assistance, retail trades, accommodation, and food services. So 34% of adult residents hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and 63% have a post-secondary education. Okay. So Scarborough is not scary. Scarborough has awesome, quality, amazing, hardworking, educated people living in there. This is a community I want you to take a closer look at. I also want to say this community makes more sense if you're already working on the East End, or you need access to the Don Valley, for example, or you go use Markham Road to get up to Markham to the industry that you work in. Like if you are already East Ending, this is an area that you want to look at. If you work at the airport, I do not recommend you look at this area. If you work in New Toronto, I do not recommend you look at this area. So I want you to think you're already on the East End for whatever you're doing, or you work in that financial district and you zip down on the go. And in fact, we sold a property in this area. I don't know when that was now, sometime in the summer. And the gentleman, one of the sellers, he lives out here, and he just hopped on the GO station, went right downtown every single day and loved it, worked on the train, done. In 19 minutes, I'm sorry, but like it takes me over 19 minutes to drive from Bathurst to Yonge Street in my car. I can walk faster. So I think that's a really smart thing to consider if you're working in the financial district. All right, so we did the same exercise here, and we looked at the average sold price for detached homes. Again, the 3-bedroom, 2-washroom, all different stories. And yes, some of these are going to be bungalows. The average sold price, $994,000. The median sold price, and you remember what that is, $999,000. Average days on the market, 22. And there was, over the last 3 months, there were 16 sales in this category. So definitely something to keep your eye on. And I'm going to show you some amazing examples.
And you will see a lot more greenery on these properties as we go. There's a few examples you have here, but even the lots or the frontage, they definitely are a lot greener than, let's say, Caledonia.
Look at this cutie patootie right here. 56 Arden Crescent, Jane and Lawrence. Just adorable. I'm sorry, but like that's got curb appeal to me. This little guy was listed for $1,099,000 and sold for $920,000. Okay. The lot, listen to this, 44 by 125. 4 bedrooms, 1 washroom.
Look at that green.
Look at that green. I know. 2 parking spots.
Yeah.
Okay, like, yes, I can acknowledge that it has parquet flooring, which is back in style, by the way. And yes, you might want to update the kitchen over time, but like totally move in. You could upgrade it over time. You could paint your cabinets if you couldn't do it right away and change the kitchen, but like just cute as apple pie right here. I like love this little guy. For $920,000? Oh my gosh, amazing. So there's this example, and then I wanted to move on to this example, which sort of almost has the same look on the outside, actually. I thought I was on the wrong slide. This is 7 South Mead at Eglinton and Victoria Park, also cute as a button. And this little guy was listed for $1,067,000. It's sold for, this was listed for $1,029,000, my apologies, and sold for $1,067,000. So a lot of people liked this property. This is a 40 by 132 lot. And Ralph, just to acknowledge that backyard, look at that backyard. Look at all that.
Lots of green. Lots of green. We're on a green theme.
3 bedrooms, 2 washrooms, 3 parking spaces, finished basement. Again, maybe you could, even if you just painted this property white and changed the light fixtures, voila. I'm into it. I'm like sold in this area. After we researched this for the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea it could be so cute out here. There was just so many great properties to select from for examples, but these were the two that I wanted to highlight here.
Great value.
Great value. So let's look at the home price index again. So you can see here, once we look at apples to apples and smooth everything out, that the average detached in this area has definitely climbing up. So you're looking at 1.2 million on average. Semis, there won't be as many out here. 984,000 townhomes, there'll certainly not be as many. 734,000, and your condos just hovering under 700,000. And yes, there's been some depreciation. We all know why. You can check out any of our former podcasts to talk about a market update in terms of pricing. So there was a pullback on the market, obviously because of interest rates. But as we see things flipping around over the next few months, these prices may or may not be affected. Again, this is not a forecast about where things are going. This is looking at communities where there's lots of value, long-term upside, gentrification, things to do, transit. This area, out of all the three areas that we're highlighting today, is the one that I feel struggles the most culturally on foot. And we've experienced this selling in that area as well. You're not like, oh, let me walk out my door and then go get myself like a really great coffee and then take my dog over to like a really cute pet store and then take myself over here and get myself a gelato. This is not the neighborhood for that. It will be in the future. But if you're willing to take a little bit of a longer walk or get into an Uber, there are great little items and little hot spots for you here, like the Working Dog Saloon or East Toronto Coffee or this Al Fresco restaurant, which is obviously Italian.
Oh my God, that pizza looks so good.
Amazing reviews.
So
I didn't
good.
collect a picture of what it looked like because I didn't feel like it did justification for like how great the reviews were.
The picture of the pizza is definitely doing the talking there.
All I want is pizza. All I want. And then if you're outdoorsy or you have a dog and you like to hike, you've got the Wardenwood hiking trails. And then obviously you've got the Scarborough Bluffs, gorge. Things to be considered, schools, same lecture about schools. I really want you to do your research on schools. Lots of cross-referencing here. The Fraser Institute, the Toronto District School Board. You talk to your neighbors, you talk to the principals, you talk to your friends. Your commute times, really focusing on this as well. Where do you live in the city? Where do you work? Where will you be working? Where does your partner work? You've got to get this sorted out. I don't want you in the car for an hour and a half one way every single day of your life. That is no way for you to live. Okay? Promise? Good. And then I do want to highlight, as I mentioned, I just don't really feel like this area is like for local restaurants and walkability. We're not there yet. So you want to be like more of the person who likes to cook from home. You're not like, I'm going to move out there and go to the best restaurants. You're going to move out there because you like to be cozy and you like to cook at home and you like to have your friends come over and spend the night and everyone opens an amazing bottle of wine and you've cooked them an incredible dinner in your awesome kitchen in the house that you bought for under $1 million. Anything else you want to add about this neck of the woods, Ralph?
No, I think you've done a really good job of putting this together and articulating it, Kori. So definitely eye-opening. And if you're watching this, Scarborough, it's worth the look. It's worth the drive.
It's worth the drive. I also wanted to add for anyone who's listening and lives in these neighborhoods, if you want to pepper in your ideas, where you like to take your dog or you love to get your coffee or you like to get your groceries from and you want to add them into the comments below, that'd be super helpful because I actually checked out Reddit today just to see if I could find any great nuggets. And there's some comments there, but not a lot. So it might be super helpful if you already live in these neighborhoods to share your awesome hotspots so that people can find their way if they're exploring these as potential real estate investments. So please, please, please share. And if there's things about the neighborhood that you don't like, that you think that people should know, that would be helpful too, as long as it's constructive. Let's go to the last one. W04, we're going back west, okay? You got to move over back. Your mind's over West End. We're going Weston. Weston Village, my friends. Okay, I'm really into Weston, I have to admit. I feel a little bit biased towards this neighborhood, and I'm looking forward to hearing what your top choice is, Ralph, at the end of this. But let's just get our head screwed on as to where we are in the city. So we're actually kind of going on 401, but we're south. We're south of the 401, all right? We're like Weston Road, Royal York, Jane, on the east to Lawrence. All right. Okay. I want you to think about there. Yorkdale is kind of like up there, northeast of you. And the Weston Golf and Country Club is to the west. All right. You're like in this little pocket. Got it? You're sorted out, Ralph? You know where we are?
I know exactly where we are.
Okay, perfect. You always
do. You don't
do.
need to tell me.
Okay. So
this time.
Weston was actually incorporated into a village in the 19th century and was absorbed into the borough of York in the late 1960s. And York itself, this area of the city, amalgamated into the city of Toronto in 1998. And so a lot of our viewers that are looking at this neighborhood weren't even born yet.
Oh, God.
I know.
Do we have to go there?
We do. Families with kids make up 40% of the households. This is a family community. Look at that picture of the farmer's market over there on the left. Okay? Great properties in this neighborhood. 151 different ethnic origins. 50% first-generation immigrants. 31% are second-generation immigrants. You've got Jamaican, Canadian, Italian, English, Portuguese. Everybody lives in Weston. Okay? Transit. This is huge. 114 transit stops. The big thing, I want you to look at the icons in this map. What do you see? You see two. You see the GO, but you also see the UP Express line.
Huge.
Okay, I love that thing.
Huge.
When we've taken it to the airport, I'm like, this thing is amazing.
It's like living in Europe.
It's
like
so
being civilized.
Yes. So I hear there's surge pricing. Is this a real thing?
I think so.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying. Like when you take an Uber and there's surge pricing, you're like, why is it $30 for me to go to like nowhere?
That's why we walk.
So if you know more about the surge pricing thing, I'd like you to comment and just explain that better in the comment section below, please. But it's regardless, you've got access straight to Union Station from here and straight to the airport. Like this already is changing this neighborhood. And I remember we had clients that bought here, 8 years ago. And maybe it was more than that, actually, because this is what I know. They bought it the day our former dog passed away. And so he passed away like 12 years ago. They bought this detached house for like $400,000. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you guys are insane for like wanting to live up here. And we just sold it for them recently for almost $900,000. So this area, guys, I think this couple doubled their money on their house. This area is definitely a hot spot, and some of the streets are incredible. There's incredible streets in this neighborhood. Quickly on education and occupation, again, look at that average household income. The primary, again, 100 to 125,000. Common occupations, sales and services, trades, transport, equipment operators. It seems to be a theme. Business, finance, administration occupations, healthcare, social assistance, retail trades, and manufacturing. 19% of adults, residents hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and 54% have post-secondary educations. Okay? Let's look at this. This is the crux of the presentation here, which is pricing. Again, we're looking at your 3-bedroom, your 2-washroom, your detached. The average sold price, drum roll, $996,000. The average median sold price, $966,000, taking 30 days on average to sell. And there is about 18 sales in this category over the last 3 months. Okay. So let's look at some examples because it doesn't really get cuter than this. Church Street. This street is incredible. We have worked in this neighborhood before, and I'm sorry, let's just look at this house and just take this in for a second. Church Street's amazing. The houses are beautiful. Like you can actually find a Victorian here. So
under $1 million.
Yes. I think did this one sell for under $1 million? It did.
Yeah.
So this one, yes, I'm acknowledging the wallpaper in the kitchen, but even still, I'm sorry. I think this was either an estate sale or a power of attorney sale.
I think the wallpaper's in the bedroom.
Yeah.
You said
I'm
kitchen.
I'm acknowledging the bedroom and the kitchen need a little TLC.
Got it. That's fine.
Yeah, totally fine.
Look at the value.
I know. 4 bedrooms, 2 washrooms, listed for 969, sold for 954. Took 9 days to sell. The lot, just I can't get over the lot. 50 by 128. Unfinished basement, fine. But like, I would take this all day, every day. You could make this house incredible over time. Did I walk through it personally? No. Can I tell you if there was like mold smell? No from here. But like just looking at this, I am completely suckered into this house. Like I love this house. This is just adorable. This was listed by Anita Merlot at Bosley, and it sold in September of this year. And these buyers did a great job getting this property. I love it. And then this one on Denison, also really cute. And this one here, was listed for 1.1, and it sold under asking for $1,028,000. And this one already, you can see, just has great bones. So the character has yet to be stripped from this house, which is something that people do in Toronto, which drives me and Ralph and the team crazy. So it has character, and all you need to do is just bring a little bit of vision to this house, and you can just bring it alive. 30 by 174 lot. I don't know if you can see in the bottom right corner how deep that lot is. 3 plus 1 bedrooms, 2 washroom. It does have parking. It does have a finished basement. Honestly, like you do an upgrade to the kitchen, you update the floors, and then all you need to do is update your drapery and your light fixtures, paint the property white, and trust me, this house will look incredible. So there's some really good examples for you. Oh. And then quickly looking at the home price index, average detached 116, average semi 900,000, average town, which you won't find a lot of, 727,000, and average condo 587,000. Again, not a huge area for condos. This area, the locale, there's more and more opening up here. Again, a caveat for me is there's just not a ton of great restaurants and bars for you to stumble over to at night. So you're going to have to get creative in terms of like where you're going out. But you do have the beautiful Weston Golf and Country Club, which is amazing. This little cafe called Rosemount Cafe on obviously Rosemount. There's a farmer's market now in Weston Village. You've got little restaurants called like this little Greek run PMM restaurant, or the Glamour Bar and Lounge, which is very popular in this neighborhood as well. There are more things coming in through the pipeline in terms of great little hot spots. But I just want to flag the fact that you are not going to have the amenities that you would if you lived in, let's say, Summerhill, and you just want to go over to Toroni for dinner. That will not happen here. Okay. Yet, my friends. And then finally, let me just move this slide up. I just lost my slide for a second. I want you to focus on schools. I want you to focus on your commute times, and I want you to focus on your local amenities and your accessibility and where you work and how you're going to get there. So that rounds up the 3 that I think have the most value right now, and I think have the most long-term upside for our people. So out of those 3, Ralph, if you had to buy something tomorrow, out of the 3 communities, where would you buy?
Okay, so I'm going to break it down for you so you can hear my decision-making process. Looking at Caledonia, for me, the location is the best location. I love the feel of the neighborhood, and you really feel like you are in Toronto proper and you're in a Toronto neighborhood, old school styles. And there's a lot more to walk out to. There's a lot more conveniences. I think the downside is the footprint of your home and the footprint of your lot, and even the amount of greenery you're going to get is very diminished compared to some of the other neighborhoods that we've looked at. Birchmount, I really like the lot sizes. I love the greenery. I love the access to the bluffs. These houses had a lot of potential as well at the price points that we were looking at to really add value over time by adding an extra floor, by doing extensions, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives somebody the ability to get into a nice home and then have the ability to continue to add value to it over time because of the footprint of the properties. And you're not necessarily paying that crazy premium you would be in other neighborhoods to be able to have something that you can grow into over time. And then Weston, that double whammy of the Go and the UP Express is just incredible. And it really takes an area that feels removed from the city and makes it really, really accessible, as well as you're close to the 401, depending upon where your family lives or your extended family lives or your work commitments are. From a transit perspective, given that these locations aren't central, it certainly, in my opinion, has the best upside or is the most attractive. And the houses seem to have the most character, and they definitely have the largest footprints. And I think that that is something that's really unique to be able to see those type of homes at these type of price points, which won't be for long. And so I think from a value and long-term appreciation standpoint, I definitely would be leaning towards Weston. However, I think I would actually either be looking, like if I was looking to buy a property, I think I'd be a Caledonia kind of guy. I'd like to be in that central location. I'd like to be able to walk out to St. Clair. I'd like to be able to drive, to the what's that mall called again?
Stockyards?
Yeah, I'd like to be able to drive in my car to the stockyards, pick up whatever I need. I really, really like that. And I like just feeling if I'm going to live in Toronto, I want to live in like that Toronto type of neighborhood. And I just love the pride of ownership. But that's not to throw shade on either of your two examples
I
that I
know.
didn't end up going with. And I think a strong contender would be Weston, just because of the potential future upside in value with the transit there, which is just going to become more and more important. And the fact that you have these character homes that you just can't find really anywhere else for that type of price point. So I think, but maybe an investment side, I'd be leaning a bit more towards Weston, but where I would buy, I'd probably be Caledonia. And maybe it's the Italian in me 5 or 6 generations removed, but I know it's there somewhere that would drive me to that neighborhood. How about you, Cor?
Oh,
It's
I
tough.
heard I got sold on all three of them as I was researching this, to be honest. And I
Mhm.
think I told you that when we saw each other for lunch. I was like, I kind of feel sold on all of them. I also think I would choose Caledonia slash Keelsdale because I also like the feeling of being able to walk out my front door and walk to amenities. I do feel partial to Corso Italia being so close by, and also partial to the stockyards, and partial to even getting to like Yorkdale wouldn't even be that bad from there. The Eglinton LRT construction would drive me insane. This is taking forever. I'm frustrated. I feel like just working on it myself at this point. I think I could be okay with a smaller footprint because what I like about living in a city is being able to capitalize on living in a city. And if I wanted greenery or a big footprint, I would be more open to going outside of the bounds of the city of Toronto. I love the properties in Weston, that Church Street. If you have never been there and you're
So
looking
cute.
for a house, it's a
Yeah.
gorgeous street. The properties are ridiculous and the prices, as you just saw, I just can't even get over it. Scarborough, I mean, I'm not an East Ender. I don't really spend a lot of time there. But I used to feel that way when we first started showing properties around like Greenwood, Coxwell area or like Woodbine, Lumsden, or
Gerard.
yeah, like I used to be like, who would live out here? This is like, because there was nothing. And now look at it's just incredible. So I do feel in the very close future that that little pocket with all those, that GO station infrastructure being in there is totally going to flip over. And as I mentioned off the top, everywhere in the city is going to become smaller, tighter communities with everything coming closer to you again, because we just won't be able to get around like we have for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So I'm going to rank. I'm going to go Caledonia, Keelsdale, Weston, because I really like the property types. And then, maybe I'll go with Scarborough and then Weston. I'm kind of tossed. They're tied.
Okay, very diplomatic of you, Kori.
Yeah.
For our viewers watching.
Well, I'm so glad that we did this. If
For
you
sure.
want to add your comments about your search or the fact you purchased into these areas because you were looking at them for these reasons, please share your comments. I think people will find this really helpful. This is kind of a roadmap to move you into 2025, maybe give you a little bit of inspiration or perspective on what's out there. I know it's really deflating to be looking at some of the prices in certain neighborhoods and be like, I will never live in South Riverdale or I'll never live in Trinity Bellwoods because the prices seem just too far of reach for you. But people bought into those neighborhoods before the price points got as high as they are, and they're able to excel because of that commitment and risk they took when they did acquire those properties. So hopefully this will give you a little bit of that inspo. I do want to do this same exercise on condos because I think it would be really interesting to get us outside of the traditional condo mecca of, your King Wests and your City Place and your Liberty Village, like the same old, building, but everyone always references as being cookie cutter. And I know there's more out there. So I'd like to do the same on condos. So if you're interested in seeing that, you let us know in the comment section below and we'll address that too, hopefully before the holidays. If you like this content, you found it valuable or interesting or informative, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment and turn on the notification bell. We really appreciate it so much. Ralph, any last words?
Thank you, Kori, for putting this together. I think you did an awesome job. And certainly for myself and hopefully for a lot of the people watching, there's a lot of food for thought. And that was really the intent of this, trying to get the juices flowing so that you could start to think about what makes the most sense for you. Or if you were in a position or want to position yourself in the future, where would you want to be? And so I think these are really great conversation openers and maybe something to be discussed when you're with your family over Christmas, aka the bank of mom and dad, which is going to play a pivotal role in these price points and in these type of properties. And the other thing, just to remind people of, like, the property ladder still exists in Toronto, and these are just entry freehold areas, but we have had so many clients, just like the one you were talking about, Kori. I know exactly what you're referring to, who bought for 400,000, sold for just under $1 million in Weston. That's allowed them to move to other neighborhoods, and that transition is how people generally, over time, get into the most desirable, sought after neighborhoods. And it takes a lot of forethought and planning and long-term thinking. But for a lot of people, it still is possible. But with interest rates coming down and I think a lot more loose monetary policy, especially in the freehold market where supply is just virtually capped, now would be a really good time if you're considering purchasing a home. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, make a comment in the comments section below. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. And thank you so much for tuning in. If we know you, we love you. And if we don't know you, I'm sure we would love you. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ralph.
Bye-bye.
Bye.